You go, Cameron? Yeah. All right.
It was a great day at the office, well coached, and the kids came through and the older players supported them well. It must have been enjoyable at times in the coaching box.
I don't know if it's enjoyable. It's satisfying, that's for sure. The players look like they enjoyed themselves late in the game, which is, even in the first half, they're talking to them, just playing the way that we wanted to play, and the level of competitiveness. I think they enjoyed that part of the contest, and it can be really challenging, almost preaching a similar message around level of effort, the things that we've been working on, and sometimes the reality is you need some reward for the effort, because it's hard to see the positive progress and the things moving in the right direction when you're not getting the result.
What changed in the second half, particularly to get that midfield dominance for you? I mean, it was pretty even in the first half, but then you sort of blew it open.
Yeah, I think not just about personnel, but we probably, I said during the week, this is the first time I can remember selection pressure. I mean, we've had it in my time, but I just can't remember it. It was that long ago. And that means that you have some flexibility to do some different things, to move some players around. I mean, we've just been, over the last 18 months, so hamstrung in terms of what we can do. And, there are certain levers that you can pull, but, to be able to pull personnel levers and to have options, it certainly helps. And, I thought Sullivan Roby looked like the player we knew we were drafting. He's just a really impressive guy, not just in the way he plays, but the way he understands the game. And so he gave us great flexibility. I thought our young players really shone. Like Farrow looks really accomplished at the level. Dyson Sharp's injured at the moment, but he's shown really good signs. So we've said, we're excited about our young players, but I get when you're not seeing results, people don't really care that much. But we've been excited about these young guys. Roberts obviously was very good today as well, and it was just good for them to get some reward, and that flexibility of Sarda's coming back into the side. He's a really good story. He's had some tough times and been given a fair bit of tough love over the journey, but has worked extremely hard and took his opportunity today.
Spoken more about the intangible improvements in the last few weeks. You haven't necessarily seen it on the scoreboard, but today you contested ball in the marking game as well. You had nearly 140, which was way more than Melbourne. How good is it to see those tangible, improvements on field?
Yeah, and I think your point's important about the result, because we felt that the tangible improvement probably started at the 20-minute mark of the second quarter against the Bulldogs last week. So we were really keen to make sure that we reviewed that really strongly and almost like banked that improvement and went again. And I think that was pretty evident today. But we're still a massive work in progress. I think perspective is just such an important thing in this game. And while we're incredibly pleased with the result, I'm really pleased for the players to get that reward. I'm really pleased for our supporters who have been through a really tough time. I'm really pleased for the club. But perspective is important. It's not like we have done anything miraculous. So we've still got a hell of a lot of work to do. And even if we don't get the result today, I think the trajectory we're on is still the same.
I know what you've said about the losses last year and potentially 18 consecutive losses, but is it important for the fans for you not to hit that marker?
Yeah, I think it is for them, because they put up with a lot over the journey, and I'm pretty explicit about the fact that what drives me personally and what we're trying to instill in our club is a club-first attitude where we put out a team that makes our supporters and members proud. And, we haven't been able to do that over recent times, and we're working extremely hard to do that, and that's what drives us.
Defensively, there've been a threat of being scored against and teams getting a run on against you. Today, in that second quarter particularly, when they kicked a few, got out to 19 or so points, you were able to hold them up. Is the difference now, and over the last, as you say, in the second half last week, is the difference simply that personnel, or do you feel that you've changed? You seem to stop the uncontested marks and you held them up from running through?
Yeah, look, we've definitely worked on it. Some personnel definitely helps, but yeah, I don't want to fill the excuse bag right up, but it's been a challenge to coach a style when personnel is just turning over at a rate of knots and you can't get any continuity. So, but the silver lining to that is that we now have, as I said during the week, a surplus of players who we think could play in our best side, and they've all trained the same way. So that's definitely helped us. But we are asking, young players to come in and execute roles in a team defence structure that, if it breaks, it can break apart really quickly against sides like Melbourne and the Bulldogs, who move the ball at speed. And Melbourne have been really impressive this year in their all facets of the game, but in particular their speed of ball. And so our ability to slow that up, not every time, but most of the time, and get the game mostly on our terms in the second half was really pleasing.
You've had Ridley, Reid and Mackay 6 or 7 times out of 50, I think it is. What do you think of having those guys together today?
I thought it was good, Cal. Yeah. And I put Redmond in that mix too. I mean, he wasn't out there today, but again, you probably look at the top 4 sides over the last few years. They've been very, very settled with the key components of their defence, and we just haven't, for a variety of reasons, we haven't been able to put them out there. But again, the silver linings. Roberts keeps developing as a player. Farrow, we think that's the reason we drafted him as early as we did, because we rate him really highly. And so yeah, it's really pleasing to get some of the senior players back to support the young talent. So again, that perspective is important. We knew that 3 weeks ago when we were poor, and we know it now after a win. So it's not like anything's massively different. It's just our supporters can be happy for a change in the last 12 months or so.
Is Peter Wright just a rucker? Is that just where you might have just landed on what he is?
Yeah, it was exceptional today. Pickett and Gawn are, I think, generational players. Gawn is, I think everyone knows that, but Pickett's a special player too. And I wouldn't say we're able to blunt their influence, and I think that's sometimes the best you can hope for. But yeah, it's a big challenge for Pete today, and he accepted it, and I thought the last goal was fitting. That he was able to push forward and challenge Max, and Max was still good. I mean, you're almost trying to mitigate centre bounce with him in there. But yeah, I thought Pete was exceptional, and we'll just keep working on what that best role looks like.
With Sardis, is that just a kicking thing you're talking about, tough love, or is it other parts of his game that he's had to work on?
Oh no, the whole he's elite at some things, and other things he just needed to bridge the gap, and but that's a coaching responsibility as much as a player responsibility. So he just stacked good performances on top of good performances at VFL level, and when he was playing really well at VFL level, he still wasn't doing the things we needed him to do to an AFL standard. Just a couple of things. And to his credit, he went away and worked on it, worked with the coaching group, and and he got reward for that effort today. So it's I'm really pleased for him, because he's had to work extremely hard.
And just lengthen back, look pretty comfortable.
Yeah. It's, again, different roles for different players today, and we were able to go a little bit taller because we think we've got some flexibility with our talls, and it's always really pleasing when as a coach, you can probably put a player in a position that they might think is probably their, not their best spot, but they're willing to do it for the team. And Langers was a good example of that today.
One of the newer faces, but not necessarily one of the younger ones, is Tom Edwards. Only played 2 games last year, went down with his ACL. It looks like he's come back really, really quickly into the team, kicked a couple of crucial goals today, and keeps hitting the scoreboard. Yeah,
he's a smart player, Tom, and unfortunately we only saw him for 2 games last year, and that perspective is important. Again, sometimes when things aren't going well, you can feel sorry for yourself, and when Tom, as a mature age draftee, ruptures his ACL in his second AFL game, you'd think he'd be thinking, poor me, but his perspective was, well, 2 months ago I was a school teacher, and if I'd ruptured my ACL playing local footy, I'd have to pay for the surgery, and I'd have to go back and be a school teacher on crutches. Like his attitude was, I'm a full-time athlete, I get to rehab my knee like a full-time AFL footballer, and I think that perspective kept him going through his rehab, and we didn't think he'd come back and play one VFL game and then we'd select him the next week, but we picked him on merit. It's a credit to him.
Did you make anything of the club longest losing streak and the potential of that, or was that just immediate or stuff that we talk about externally?
We haven't mentioned it once.
Thanks, guys.